My name is Claire Newing, and I'm Web Archivist at the National Archives of the UK. Thank you for joining my presentation about the UK Government Social Media Archive, now bigger, more user-friendly and searchable. The National Archives is a non-ministerial department of the UK Government and is the official archive and publisher for the UK Government and for England and Wales. It's the guardian of some of the country's most iconic national documents, dating back over 1,000 years. The slide shows our building in Kew, West London, where our physical documents are housed in traditional archive repositories. I think it's fair to say that when our building was built in the 1970s, the people involved could not have envisaged that 40 years later, I would be giving a presentation about collecting records which it would be impossible to put in a box and place on a shelf. Fortunately, though, the main piece of legislation which we operate under, the Public Records Act of 1958, is format neutral. This means we are able to capture records created by government in any format. In the past, this meant that we've accessioned objects such as movies and photographs and some rather obscure things such as a lemon and a famous, or maybe infamous, mummified rat. In more recent years, it's meant we've been able to acquire various types of digital objects without any additional legislation being required. We began archiving UK government websites in a selective way in 2003. Thanks to the generosity of our colleagues at the Internet Archive, we were able to acquire archived versions of some sites dating back to 1996, which we've merged with our collection. In 2008, we expanded our operation to capture all UK central government funded websites at least twice a year. The regular captures are augmented by additional calls of specific sites in response to topical events. For example, the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games, German elections, Brexit, and the COVID pandemic. We work closely with colleagues in other government departments to ensure websites are captured to a high standard before they close. We've collected at least one snapshot of around 6,000 different websites and are currently capturing around 700 at least twice each year as part of our regular schedule. That's in addition to around 15 additional captures a week being run as part of our efforts to record the UK government response to COVID-19. In recent years, we created and now provide access to the EU Exit Web Archive, the comprehensive and official UK reference point for EU law as it stood at 11 p.m. on 31st December 2020. There are no access restrictions on our web archive. It's accessible to anyone who has a web browser and access to the internet. The technical side of our programme is contracted out to our service provider, MirrorWeb. We have a notice and takedown policy which covers the web archive and all our other online content, such as our corporate website and Discovery, our online catalogue. If we receive a takedown request, we remove access to the file or files immediately, pending review by a takedown panel made up of specialist colleagues. The panel decides whether the request should be upheld or whether access should be restored. In the early 2010s, we were aware that the government was increasingly using social media to communicate with the public. To illustrate this point, in 2013, the outcome of a cabinet reshuffle, which is a major change to ministerial responsibilities, was first announced in a series of official tweets. Keeping a record of how government communicates with the public has always been an important goal of our programme, so we began to scope a project. We met with representatives of 3 government departments, which use social media, who each felt that a different platform was most important to them. YouTube, Twitter, and Flickr were identified as most important overall. Initially, we attempted to capture the web browser versions of the channels using our usual Heritrix-based capture workflow. Unfortunately, it soon became evident that it would not work because of the complex way the web pages were built. An alternative solution was needed. We then liaised with our own social media user group, who felt that users interacted with the data using many different platforms, many supplied by third parties. So it was more important to capture the data rather than the look and feel of the supplier sites. This was different to anything we had attempted before, but we were excited about the challenge. We worked on the project with our then suppliers, Internet Memory Research. to develop a method of capturing tweets and YouTube videos and the associated metadata directly from the APIs provided by the services. We also wanted to provide access to the data captured through a custom interface. We also developed a method of crawling all short links in tweets so that the links resolved correctly to archive versions of the pages in the web archive. We'd initially looked at trying to capture Twitter, YouTube, and Flickr. The project was successful for Twitter and YouTube, but unfortunately not for Flickr due to technical limitations. The UK Social Media Archive went live in May 2014 and gained a very pleasing amount of press coverage. We captured the corporate channels of major government departments, the Prime Minister, Secretaries of State and others by special request twice each year for Twitter accounts and once every 8 months for YouTube. This worked fine for YouTube, but the Twitter API restricted us to only capturing 3,200 tweets per capture, which meant we risked missing tweets for channels which were very active. Because of copyright restrictions, we are only permitted to capture content created by UK government. This means that we do not capture user comments on YouTube videos or retweets or app mentions from users on Twitter. This means that the archive contains many rather one-sided conversations. We continued in the same way until 2017, when we retendered our service contract and began working with MirrorWeb. MirrorWeb started work immediately on improving the social media archive. They developed a method of social media capture, which is undertaken using serverless functions running in the cloud. These functions authenticate with the social API and request the metadata content for all new posts created on the social channel since the last capture point. Each post is then stored in a database for later replay. Further serverless functions are triggered when a post object is written to the database to check if the post contains media content like images or videos. If media content is found, these are added to a queue, which in turn triggers another serverless function to download the media for the post. For replay, the stored JSON objects are read back from the database and presented to the user with the media objects in a similar layout to the original platform. Excitingly, this meant we could query for new content at frequent intervals, usually daily for regularly updated channels, rather than capturing all available data for a channel a few times a year. Also, we were able to provide access to images and video content embedded in tweets for the first time. We increased the number of channels we were capturing. At the end of our contract with Internet Memory Research, we'd captured around 100 Twitter accounts and 60 YouTube channels. The figures are now around 4 times that. Finally, we undertook a full redesign of the access pages in collaboration with our in-house web design team. But we always knew that we could do more. In 2017-2018, we undertook some general user research. When we asked regular web archive users about the social media archive, we found that most of them didn't know about it. When we gave them a demonstration, they generally said that it looked interesting, but was not very useful without a search function. We saw this as a call to action and started scoping an improvement project. The project was launched in late 2018 with 3 aims. Firstly, to develop a method of capturing Flickr content. This has become urgent, as in November 2018, Flickr announced that, as of early 2019, free account holders would be limited to 1,000 images per account, and any additional images above that number would be deleted. A survey showed that several UK government accounts, particularly older accounts which were no longer being updated, were at risk of losing content. Secondly, we wanted to improve our custom access pages. With increased number of channels we were capturing, and the access pages were becoming very large and difficult to use. We also wanted to provide full text search across the social media collection. MirrorWeb also took the opportunity during the project to make some changes to the back-end services, including making improvements to the portal we use to manage the social media capture. The project was a success, and we were very proud to launch the improved service late in 2019, although we weren't able to make an announcement at the time because the government announced the snap general election and we were not allowed to do any announcements. So the announcement actually took place in early 2020. The most exciting development was the provision of a full-text search function, which operates across the social media collection. We think this was a world first, but please correct me if I'm wrong about that. It searches the full text of tweets and the titles and descriptions of YouTube and Flickr posts. Results can be filtered by year posted, platform and channel, and by words to include or exclude. The search service was built by MirrorWeb using Elasticsearch, the same technology we use for the full-text search facility on the UK Government Web Archive, a collection of archived websites. MirrorWeb once again make use of serverless functions to provide full-text search of the social accounts. When social post metadata is written to the database, a serverless function is triggered to extract the relevant metadata and is then added to Elasticsearch. I'm now going to attempt to do a demonstration. I'm hoping this will be less scary than actually doing it live, but we shall see. So if I unshare my slides and now share Firefox. Okay, that looks good. So this is the UK Government Web Archive landing page. You'll see that you can access the social media archive search, the Twitter archive, the video archive, and the Flickr archive, as well as other UK Government Web Archive facilities. I'm going to start by showing you the Twitter archive. You can see all the Twitter accounts we've archived in alphabetical order. As it's got around 600 entries, it's a very long list, so we put a filter at the top to help users find what they needed. I want to see the Twitter channel for the London 2012 Olympic and Paralympic Games, so I'm going to type Olympic here. The filter is applied automatically, and I get two options. Each link contains the channel name, the Twitter handle, a count of how many tweets have been archived, and a link to the live Twitter account if it's still available. And if I click here, I can view the archive channel. Here you can see all the tweets which are listed in date order, starting with the most recent. And because it's quite a while now since the Olympics, there's a tweet dated the 27th of July 2013 is the last one. I can either use the search box at the top of the page to search within the tweets captured from this account. For example, if I type, I can then see only results from this channel, which include the word torch in the tweets. I can use the functions on the left-hand side of the page, so over here, to filter by year or change how the tweets display, or I can scroll to the bottom of the page and use the slider to browse to other pages. I'm going to scroll to page 68. And here we see tweets from when the Olympics were actually in progress back in 2012. Each archive tweet shows the account name, the Twitter handle, and the date the tweet was originally tweeted. If you click on a short link, it will resolve to the archive version of that page in the web archive, or resource. In fact, it doesn't have to be a page, unless the website it's linked to is not in scope for our web archiving program. Now for this one, I know that points to the London 2012 website, which is in scope for our program. And there we see an archive version of that page from the 9th of September 2012. Now just, if any images or video appear in the tweet, they also appear in the channel. And I'm just going to do another filter, this time for Treasury, just to demonstrate that. And you can see just some images embedded in the tweets here. I'm now going to demo our social media search. So if I go back here and here, in fact, that's not the right thing. That's archive search. It's not search. And sticking with the Olympic team, or the Olympic theme, I'm going to search for one of our most successful Olympians at London 2012, Mo Farah, who also happened to go to school with me. And you can see that we have 27 results spread across all 3 platforms. In the search results, the platforms are indicated by these little images. So that one's Flickr, and we've got a YouTube and a Twitter down there. We also displayed the channel or account name, the handle, and the date the post was originally published on the live channel. For YouTube and Flickr results, there's also a link to view the whole post. On the left-hand side of the screen, over here, you can see you can filter by platform, year of original post or channel, and specify words to include or exclude. I'm going to filter so I can only see results from Flickr. Let's click on Refine. And I'm then just going to click here to view post. We can now see that this image was originally posted on the Foreign Commonwealth Office Flickr channel. It was published originally on the 12th of the 8th, 2012, and archived for the first time on the 2nd of the 11th, 2018. We also get the original URL, which may no longer be available, so people can view it on the live web if they wish, and we can see what license it was posted under. We can also see the description that was originally put on Twitter. Okay, so that's the end of my demonstration. I'm just going to unshare that, go back to sharing my presentation. Very proud of our social media archive. We've now captured around 450 Twitter accounts, 250 YouTube channels, and 50 Flickr accounts, including around 30 across all the platforms which no longer exist on the live web, and many more which are no longer being updated. But we're planning to make the archive even better still. In the coming year, we have got some user research planned, which will guide further developments. We're also experimenting with different technologies to capture other platforms such as Instagram and GitHub. We're also going to investigate integrating YouTube archive with the web archive. We hope to be able to link from pages on archive websites where the YouTube videos are embedded to the archive versions of those videos in the YouTube archive. At the moment, you can just see an error message, which isn't very satisfactory. We're also going to look at surfacing metadata we capture but currently do not display. For example, changes in thumbnail images. At the moment, the thumbnail images displayed for tweets are the first one which was captured for that channel. On some channels, the images change regularly, for instance, in response to events such as Remembrance Sunday and LGBT+ History Month. We'd like to be able to show which thumbnail displayed when the tweet went live. We're also working as part of a bigger TNA project known as Project ECNA to figure out how to connect not only the social media archive, but other parts of our web archive with other National Archive collections. And finally, in the sort of longer term, we'd like to go for the Holy Grail, integrating our social media search with our main web archive search. Watch this space. So thank you for watching. Please go ahead and have a look at our web archive and social media archives. If you'd like to contact the National Archives team directly, please use the email address on the slide. I'd like to take this opportunity to thank Phil Clegg, MirrorWeb's CTO, for his help with the technical details in this presentation. Phil will be joining me for the Q&A session on Wednesday, the 16th of June, 2021 at 9:30 a.m. CEST. We're looking forward to seeing you there. And finally, I'm going to finish by showing you a video from our YouTube collection. We captured it in 2011 and it's no longer available on the live web. The video I've chosen is a public information film, which aims to teach children about the dangers of fireworks. Public information films had a huge impact on British children growing up in the 1970s and 80s. They were commonly shown in between children's television programmes and were often absolutely terrifying. I can remember my younger sister being extremely upset by a fire safety film featuring a burning doll's house. In fact, public information films had such an impact on popular culture that audio and video extracted were used in several dance music, early rave tracks in the early 1990s. If you're interested in those, look up Charlie by the Prodigy. We hold many such films at the National Archives, dating back as far as the 1940s and 50s. Many are accessioned as physical films or videos and are looked after by our colleagues at the British Film Institute. I'm really interested in how these films have changed over the years and how they are now often primarily presented on social media. I hope you enjoy it.
It was bonfire night. I had an explosive case to solve. Every year, kids were being hurt by fireworks. I had a lead, but it was safer for Sparky to stay indoors. These kids were smart. A grown-up lit the fireworks, and everyone stood well back. I had to hand it to him. Wearing gloves was wise. The only drips here were from the bucket. How come you kids are so clued up?
It's simple. We follow the firework code.
So remember, get wise and...
Don't get